Welcome to VC's Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors. Your host, Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and co-founder of the Wocstar Fund, has spent 30 years in finance. And I'm here too. I'm Victoria Bird. I'm the Chief Content Officer and Creative Director of Wocstar Media. And I've spent 30 years in media. We champion female entrepreneurs, we champion diverse teams, and we're both passionate about stories that change old narratives. We're looking to inform you, inspire you, and help you get your bag and your dreams.
Hey Wockstars, welcome back to another episode of VC's Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors, and I'm your host, Gayle Jennings-O'Byrne, CEO of Wocstar Capital and co-founder of the Wocstar Fund. I'm here with my bestie, Victoria Bird, our Chief Content Officer and the Creative Director of Wocstar Media. Hey, Victoria.
Hey, I love a virtual world. I love that we can be in different places, connect.
Yes, and I think it's actually going to allow us to interview more people and get more episodes out there. I mean, I love the studio, but not everyone's in New York City.
Listen, I have a white studio for us here. We finally landed on a beautiful white set. We went through an evolution of sets, right? And we finally landed on a nice white set. And I looked at one of our last episodes and went, "That's actually us. It's pretty. It's feminine. It's strong." And we had like weeks earlier said, let's just go vertical. Like I was like, oh, it's an evolution.
But I love this because there's so many people around the country that I want our listeners to get to know, right? Like this was all about introducing investors to entrepreneurs. And we can't assume that everyone's in New York, right?
And you know what also it means, and this is something you talk about with work all the time. It talks about being flexible, being able to ebb and flow and and that's what we're doing, right?
That's right.
We have this great platform that we're working on, and we have great editors, and we have all of our people supporting this podcast. And
that's right. And so for all of you listening, let this be a lesson in being flexible, adaptable, trying new things. Listen, we're going to try it. You'll tell us if you like it or not. And if we have to switch it up again, we'll do that, right? But this is life. Life be lifing. You didn't hear me say that in the interview too, probably. Life be life, and I'm feeling that.
I can't wait to hear from your guest. Tell me about her a little sneak peek.
Okay, so Sydney Thompson is just this VC with a heart. She's just this angel, not an angel investor, but she's an angel. She was at one of the first early pre-seed funds that went from like 10 investments to making over 400 investments. And now she has taken all that knowledge and goodness and expertise, and she started her own fund with a partner out of North Carolina, Shruti. So Sydney and Shruti have a company called Symphonic Capital, and they're focused on health and wealth for overlooked communities. Very cool stuff.
Wow.
But she is a girl's girl, and I wanted you to meet her. I want our listeners to meet her, because if you're growing and scaling a fintech or a health tech company, she and Shruti are the folks to know. Symphonic Capital.
Love it. Can't wait to hear more. Let's just go over there.
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. This episode of VC's Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
Hey Wockstars, welcome back to another episode of VC's Off the Record. This is Real Talk with Real Investors. This is your chance to get to know them and really understand what they invest in and how to get in touch with them and understand their investment strategy. More than just what you see on the website, this is your insider look into the VCs themselves. And with me today is Sydney Paige Thomas, founder and general partner of Symphonic Capital. I have to share that I have been a fan from afar of Sydney for I don't know how many years now, but she is a girl's girl. Like she is so about female empowerment. She is about all boats rising, and she's just a venture capitalist with a heart. And so I'm so glad that she is here with us. She also has a baby face, but she's been in this industry over 10 years. She's helped hundreds of businesses. She believes in the power of making others powerful. She works, not just invest, but she works with early stage founders and really works to help them achieve their goals. And it's just been really beautiful to see her journey, coming from policy, government, working for the Bloomberg administration, working with fintech companies, digital health companies. It's just been really beautiful. So I'm so glad she's here and that you guys are all going to get a chance to meet her. Sydney, welcome. I'm so grateful. I know you're crazy busy, but I'm so glad that you are here and you want to get to know our community. So thank you for being on the podcast VCs Off the Record.
Thank you so much for having me. And I feel like, I feel the same. When I first got into venture a while back, one of the first things I did was like, okay, where are all the other Black women? I know I'm not the only one. Everyone keeps telling me I am because of their own stuff. Let me just pull together a list. And obviously you were on that list alongside, your great friends like Tracy Gray. And it was just really fun to be able to see like, oh, okay, there's other Black women doing this their way in this business. I don't have to subscribe to kind of whatever anybody else thinks I need to do to be successful. I can also make my own way. So thank you for being you and for trailblazing too.
Oh my gosh. All right. This is a mutual fan club. I love it. So let's start with your journey, because it started in politics and like creating legislation. Take us back to that. And then we're going to get to how you got to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
So what's the origin story of that?
Honestly, I went to Duke undergrad. It's the South. It felt very much like the South. I was there right after. Some of you guys might remember the lacrosse scandal, which kind of became, remember that? And so the race relations and tension on campus was palpable. And it made me realize that I needed to get involved in this work in some way. I didn't know what it was going to look like, but I knew I needed to get involved. That's what led me to public policy. And I had a professor there who was just brilliant and shared with me so many stats on the racial wealth gap. Some of the stats that unfortunately still true today is that on average, a Black family holds less than, I can flip it the other way actually. On average, a white family holds 10 times the amount of wealth that a Black family holds, which was just staggering to me. And he shared that so much of this was actually done through policy, through legislation, through, action that the government had taken with things like the GI Bill, which enabled, certain veterans to get access to low interest rate homes, but Black veterans didn't get access to those same low interest rate homes. It was all of these really little things that added up and became quite fastidious and, created the world we live in today. I was like, okay, cool. So I'll just change it. Like, thanks for the insight.
But you are, right? We're kind of laughing, but it's true. You have been changing it. So
thank you.
I love that you saw something in the world that didn't sit right with you and you decided to do something about it. That's inspiring and brave and courageous. And it so much is a testament to who you are. So how many years were you doing that? And then when did you and how did you get to Silicon Valley?
So I was doing that for, from about 2010 to 2015. I was working in New York City on all things policy, legislation, nonprofit work, and realized that there was just so much going on that needed the buy-in from the private sector in order for me to actually multiply that impact that I was looking to have, which led me to the private sector. So that's when I went to business school and started in venture in about 2016.
Gotcha. And tell us about that, because you were part of really one of the first pre-seed funds. I mean, you were trailblazing.
Those early days were really just completely overwhelming. I think that there was still not a lot of data on what happens in pre-seed, what pre-seed should be, what really success looks like in pre-seed. And so the first year or so was just drinking from a fire hose for me to understand how can I contextualize this work in the broader picture, and also start building some foundations around what I actually wanted to build when I knew I would want to lead my own venture capital firm, getting a lot of those data points around just what still needs to change, what am I gravitating towards, what am I excited about, and really excited that, we launched Symphonic about 2 years ago, and with a lot of that insight that I had in those early days, which was that pre-seed has evolved. It's not the same that it was in 2014. There's just so much capital coming into this venture capital ecosystem now that we just can't pretend like a 250K round at pre-seed is really going to take this company all the way to IPO, and that you're going to have these seed funds come after you to double down on your deals. Instead, what it looks like now is many multi-stage firms coming into seed, creating these extremely bloated rounds where a seed deal can now look anywhere between $1 million round to a $10 million round, which is just insane. That those two things, right?
Insane. But listen, you've seen insanity and scale, and I mean, because the first fund, correct me if I'm wrong, you guys started with like a solo GP, 10 investments, and you help it grow to like a 400 plus investments. So you've seen the arc of this industry.
Exactly. It was, one day at a time, but seeing the growth and scale was honestly such a amazing vantage point, because I think one of the things about pre-seed too is that at least in those early days, you were kind of everybody else's friend, because all you were trying to do was have them invest in your deals. You were not competitive to anyone. You were like this early stage friendly player wanting to be give information to everybody else that they need in order to make a decision. And so I was able to actually have this really interesting, clear-eyed view of just all the different players too, and what they were looking for and what they needed to be successful, which would inform, how I thought about the industry more broadly.
There's something to what you said about the nicety and the camaraderie that exists. I still see it. I'm going to be honest. I still see it, and it heartens me because there's so many other places where we can compete, but I feel for the most part that, and not everybody, right? There's assholes everywhere. But for the most part, the VC, particularly early stage, there's still that camaraderie, all boats rise. Hey, I've got something to be taking a look at. Oh, here's some tips and tricks and hacks that we use. So it's been really nice that hasn't totally gone away.
Definitely.
Okay, so Symphonic, you start Symphonic 2 years ago. Tell me first what Symphonic Capital stands for, what's the origin of the name, and then I want to get into you telling me and our listeners a little bit more about the fund itself so they have a better understanding of if you're a fit for them.
Our name is, stems from a symphonic symphony. And the thesis behind that is what we're looking to create is this very beautiful orchestra of different players who are playing at the top of their game. When you think of an orchestra, it's not that, every single person who could play trumpet is playing trumpet in that orchestra. It is the best trumpet players playing trumpet in that orchestra. And so we are this collection of the best to build something and create something really harmonious and beautiful. And I see myself actually as the conductor. So I'm just there to help the magic happen. I am not trying to, outcompete the trumpet player on their, actual playing skills. I'm just here to make sure that their notes are aligning with the piano's notes and are aligning with, the violinist's notes, to ensure that we're all really understanding just what incredible, important part we have to play in making this orchestra and symphony happen.
My brother-in-law is president and CEO of the Charlotte Symphony.
Oh, I
Yes.
love
And his
that.
wife, my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, um, is a beautiful singer, opera singer. So if ever you want to be on brand and on theme with some symphony event reception, I don't know, there might be some Charlotte in your future.
I would love that. We
Considering
have
we're
the
both
North Carolina.
investing, I was going to say, now
Exactly.
that we're both going to be investing in North Carolina, maybe we'll have to do something one night over at the Charlotte Symphony with founders.
Oh my gosh.
Just
Done.
saying, just
I'm in.
saying. I love it. So let's break this down. What industries then do you guys invest in? What industries,
Mhm.
sectors? What are you looking for? What stage? What size checks?
So we are largely in the fintech and digital health space. Our focus is on companies that are closing access gaps for overlooked communities. We generally are doing somewhere between a 250 to 500K check in that first round. And then we do
That's
like to
good.
reserve, yeah, and we like to reserve some capital for follow on. We generally like to, and this goes back to our ethos behind early stage, is that there's a lot of these multi stage firms coming down to early stage, but they don't actually know what to do with these companies at early stage.
Mm,
They'll invest these large amounts of capital and but they're a series C or D investor generally. And so they don't know what a board should look like at seed, if there even should be a board. They don't know how to help this founder really get from point A to point B at those earliest stages, and we do. And so that requires us to take more of a lead and ownership in these companies in the early days that I think wasn't really the case maybe like 5-10 years ago. So we are generally leading deals with other awesome investors like Wocstar, and really excited to continue supporting those companies as they get from that seed stage to Series A. And how we think about seed slash pre-seed is, I think, also really unique. There's a number of folks who define pre-seed as you're just hacking away at Google and you have this idea and you decide, oh my gosh, this idea is like it worth something. And you're able to raise $3 million off of that idea. That's not our jam. We don't think that an idea is enough to win. You actually need operational excellence as well.
yeah.
And so we want you to see not just idea, we want to see not just idea, but we also want to see product launch. We want to see feedback. We want to see customers. And I think the really cool thing about the moment in time we're in is that the cost to launching anything with the affordability of all of these new AI native tools and all of the like even just basics like a website, it's just so easy. You do not need to be technical to launch a company these days, a technology company these days. And that means for us that we want to see you actually hustle and actually work through some of the resourcefulness that is necessary to launch something before we invest.
I'm glad you said that because I really hope people take that to heart in terms of how they think about what they're building. Because you're right, the barrier to entry is lower, but the ability to succeed is not.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm really glad that you said that. I want to switch it up because a lot of times we ask like, "Hey, what do you look for in an investment and in a startup?" But let me flip it a little bit. What would be 3 common reasons that you decide not to invest in a startup? What's 3
Hmm.
things that would make you say, "Nah,
Yeah.
not today, sugar"? So what's 3 things that would make you say no to an investment and walk away?
I'm not looking for folks who have faint hearts. And from the founder perspective, it's like I want to invest in someone who is incredibly resourceful, is someone who has really demonstrated their ability to build something despite, really hard headwinds. Because I think the thing about funding a company is, frankly, it never really gets easier. The challenges just get different. And so I want to make sure that you actually are ready for that life. And I think one of the other reasons we generally pass on companies is, honestly, we get so many companies who don't read the website. Because we look at every single pitch. So just for anyone on the call, I review every single pitch that comes through our very public pitch form on our website. And
okay. So that's the way to get in touch with you is go
that's the
to
way
the
to get
website and you actually will read it.
I read
Okay.
it. I read every single one. And there's a lot of folks who, one of the questions we ask is, how are you solving a problem for the 99%? Which is not supposed to be a trick question. It's supposed to be like, if you can, we want you to show just some demonstrable like commitment to this community that we have explicitly said that we are committed to on our website. And if you don't show it, then we won't invest. And I've gotten notes in that say, oh, we don't. And I'm just like, wait, what?
What am I supposed to do with
Guys,
that?
right? Like I wasn't trying. This is not supposed to be hard. This is supposed to be like quite, intuitive. And so I'd say that too. Just like you need to be in thesis with what we are excited about, which is companies that are closing access gaps for overlooked communities in health and wealth. So, healthcare disparities, racial wealth gaps, those are all interesting to us, interesting problems to solve for us. And I'd say a third reason why we oftentimes say no is I think there is sometimes the person who has the really great idea isn't always the person who needs to be executing.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm so glad you said that. Because so often we see people that are founders, they have a great idea. And then we say, okay, tell us about the rest of the team. And then there's, a couple little bubbles on the org chart of where they're going to bring people in. If they, obviously, like if we had the money, we'd hire, all these people. But there's not any real thought to the fact of like ideation versus operations. Ideation versus building an enterprise. Ideation versus leading a team and going out and defending market share, onboarding customers, closing deals, right? So I'm so glad you said that. Okay, so I hope everyone heard that. Like really think that through if you're the person that came up with the idea versus the person that can really run a company, because they're two different skill sets for sure. Yeah,
Definitely.
I love
we've
that.
seen, sometimes it takes a bit of humility for that idea person to be like, you know what, actually this, and we actually have a company in our portfolio just like that. The guy who came up with the idea is a clinician and he is, not really an operator. He's a doctor. He's used to being, a doctor. And he's like, but this idea merits the right person. And so he found someone to be the CEO and he is this a medical advisor now to the company. And we're just like, exactly. This is that type of humility too, is just like so uncommon.
Yeah.
I'd say just adding in a 4-1. I think that this ecosystem attracts a lot of people who are in it for the wrong reasons. And when I think about the wrong reasons, I think about the lights, like all of the accolades, like just trying to be kind of like in the middle of it all. And to us, it's like, actually, we want more of these servant leaders, people who are in it because they actually want to serve the vision. And that might mean that, maybe their vision isn't executed even, to its fullest impact, like next year, the year after, or the year after that, but it's in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. And so we're also really looking for like personality. Like, are you a really kind of like, do you have that disposition to really focus on the mission behind what you're building and less to just be in the middle of all the things all the time? Because in the Valley, oh man, it is, everyone loves themselves.
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of egos. There's a lot of bright lights and glitzy stars. Yeah. If that's where you're at, there's a lot that can feed into that for sure. Alrighty, we promised we were going to be diligent with your time because we know we got to let you back to your crazy schedule and all those pitches that are hopefully coming in from the folks that are listening to this podcast. So you already told us how to get in touch with you. Thank you for that. I want to end with two things. Is there one big pet peeve, do or don't, that people should keep in mind, whether they're reaching out to you, reaching out to other VCs?
Yeah, that's a hard question.
Well, while you think of it, okay. I'll let you think. I have one.
Oh, yes. Tell me, what is yours?
Which is not doing the homework. Like, do the homework. Do the work. We talked about this on another episode. Raising capital is so hard. It's emotionally draining. It's physically draining. It can zap your spirit, right? And I think part of it is because we rush into it without doing the pre-work.
Yeah.
Like, we get so many no's, but you know what? I bet you we could cut those no's in half if we were really honest about whether or not the person on the other side of the table is a fit for us.
Yeah.
And the way we do that is by doing the homework. And be like, you know what? It doesn't make sense for us to even meet. And you know, listen, I'm guilty of it too. I've been in cases where like I've gotten introduced to like, oh my God, you should meet Bob. And I'm like, okay, great. Pam is introducing me to Bob. That's amazing. I mean, he's, you know, ultra high net worth, It's going to be amazing, right? If I had done the homework and really seen what Bob invests in and what they're about, I'd be like, hey, Bob, I'm so glad Pam introduced us, but you know what? I don't know that we're a fit.
Yep.
And just leave it there instead of 20 emails to get talent. Yeah.
Exactly. It's no harm, no foul. It's like, and I think that leaves you really being able to sit in your own integrity in a way that is really just, you know, energy returning, which right. I think they're totally spot on. I've done the same. I think, you know, because for founders, like me and Gayle are also founders. And so we have done this exact same thing that we're asking you to do. That's and right. I think sometimes founders have this perception of like, oh, well, you've closed X amount of whatever. You are just now a millionaire. So you could just give me money for any cause, for both like nonprofit. I've gotten pitches from folks who are like, if you could just give us like 5K. And I was like, what? Where is this perception coming from? Like, I'm not in the business.
Doesn't work like that.
It doesn't work like that. And so there's this, just like being really respecting that have been exactly where you are. And so this is really, really what we're looking for is a partnership of, you know, equals, not That's me right. trying to make you prove or do something that I was never asked to do myself.
That's right. Yeah, I love that. Okay, final question before we say our goodbye. And it's because you have a fabulous network. Who's a cool VC that we should have on the show that our audience should get to meet? You know, everybody.
Who's someone. Oh my God.
And wait, and I will help you. If you don't want to say, because you know so many people, and someone's going to be like, well, girl, why didn't you give my name?
Why not me?
Yeah, why not me, right? I will let you text me later with the name, and I will be sure that we invite them onto the show if you don't want to name names right now. That'll be your homework. How about that? That's your homework.
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great.
Okay,
yes, there's so many good people.
I love it. All right, Sydney. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for the sunshine and the light that you just always bring to the sector. You know, you started this by talking about how you reached out to find out who else was in this space and in this industry, and so that you didn't feel alone. And I got to say, you have made it so that a lot of other VCs and entrepreneurs don't feel alone. And I thank you for that.
Thank you.
This episode of VCs Off the Record is brought to you by Wocstar Ghetto Film School Entrepreneurial Academy.
Okay, I did not lie, right?
No,
she is just an angel.
First of all, I'm so impressed with y'all women's, you know, doing this. Like, you know, I'm sure people who know your story about how long you were in investment banking and let me just tell you, the hat was large, the hat was white. You know what I mean? You were the shit. You were important and doing a lot of really good work, but like you gave that up and now you're doing this, and it's so impressive. I get to see firsthand what you do. But what always amazes me as I talk to more and more women on this podcast, and men too, but mostly the women, because women in this space really astound me, stepping into this space, doing this work. I hope you all feel that. I hope you feel that. I hope she feels that. You know, like think about all the young girls that will be impacted and see this work that you do and then think, I can do that too.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting you say that. My mom used to say to us, and she says it even now, even though I'm grown. She's like, you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
You never know who's watching. Now, part of it probably started with her being like, don't act a fool because the neighbors will tell me, or your teachers will tell me, or the other parents will tell me. But then as I got older, it also, you know, morphed into who's watching you professionally, who might become an ally that you just may never know, but they might be a champion behind the scenes for you because of how you showed up and, you know. And then, you know, you never know who's watching because maybe you can be an inspiration or you can role model good behavior or opportunities for someone else. So,
yeah, I want to get your takeaway, but I want to ask you, you asked her what her 3 reasons she says no. And I wanted to make sure you share that with people as well.
Happy to. So one of the biggest reasons I walk away from deals is if I can't get comfortable that you know how to defend your market share.
Yeah, you say that to me all the time when you
all the
ask me
time.
that. Yeah, you're like, how do they defend the market? Building the moat, right? Is that
Build
how
the
you
moat. That's right.
Yeah.
Build the moat. I mean, I had one that said, "Oh, we don't have competition," and I said, "Okay, so
Really?
you don't." Yeah, really? Okay, so one, you don't have competitions. You're telling me, so that means no one has really wanted this product or this service before, because no one's gone after that market, that product or that service before. So that means no one wanted it before. So I was like, so now I got another set of questions for you. Why didn't people want this before? Why wasn't this service or product available? Why isn't there anyone doing this? Forget defending it. Why now do people want it? So then they tried to backpedal.
Yeah.
No. People
That's
want
not
it.
what I meant.
Not what I meant. So I walk away if I can't get comfortable with the fact that the entrepreneur knows how to defend market share. My second reason why I would say no to a deal is if they can't articulate how they're really going to use the money and what that money will do, and then how they'll return money. So what do I mean by that? It's not enough to say, hey, if you give me X amount of dollars, or if I raise X amount of dollars, I'm going to hire staff. We're going to do some marketing. We're going to get some more inventory, blah, 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 right? Like that's the things you'll do with the money. I want to know, like, in doing that marketing, you expect to reach X number of people in X market. If I have this inventory, that's going to generate X in sales and be able to enter the, I don't know, Southwest market, the Northeast market, right? So it's not what you're going to spend it on. It's what that expenditure is going to do to reach your business goals. And so many people just stop at the first step, which is if I get the money, these are the things I'll spend it on. So I'm listening for what will that do in helping you achieve your business goals. And then from there, I'm listening for how do I get my money back? A lot of people can't explain that.
That is so interesting. And here's what it makes me think of. And then I want to hear the third one. I know, I don't know if we talk about it enough on here, but like Wocstar Academy teaches people how to do that, how to make those, right? Because somebody might have this, part of what you talked about, idea and execution, right? Somebody might have the idea and even know how to execute, but not know how to articulate to someone like yourself those things that you just mentioned that are criteria or access to funds, right? And Wocstar Academy, you know, does that, right? And I want to really pay attention to that moment because I think it's important that you also, as a VC, make sure that you're arming entrepreneurs with the ability to communicate and build relationships like y'all talked about, you know, and
that's right.
Right?
That's right. Yeah, because listen, raising capital is hard. So my starting the academy was really to help kind of give that insider playbook because I know it's hard to raise capital. And so if there's any tips and tricks I can share from my 30 years on Wall Street and Silicon Valley as an investor, I want people to have that, right? Let's try to make it a little easier for folks because there's so many things as entrepreneurs and founders that they have to worry about. And that's why we really tried really hard to make it free. Now we're going to start to have more premium content that people can access online. But that's also why we wanted to, you know, make it accessible to people because everyone should have this knowledge of like how to raise capital and be effective at it, right? So much is like spray and pray and just like cold calling everyone that has VC at the end of their email address. Right. And like that's not effective. That's not a good use of your time when you've got to be focused on building the company.
Yeah, be a missile. Let's tell people how to get to the Wocstar Academy. Go to Wocstar.com.
Yes.
and then go to the academy. And there's also a little bar on top that'll show you how to apply to whatever cohort session we're in.
Yep. Applications are always open. We're always wanting to know
Yeah.
who's there. And then we build
I'm always sending. This weekend I was on TikTok.
When aren't you on TikTok?
I know.
Who cares when this episode airs? It'll still it'll still be true that over the weekend you were on TikTok.
And there were two women that I got to know through, one of them is a Black-owned business owner who runs a skincare line that I just started supporting her. And this weekend, and then another woman was on she'd done a TikTok, and I was like, we have this free academy. We have this free academy, and I was just like, take the class.
Take the class. One of the best topics, one of the best sessions is what investors ask and what they're listening for. And listen, it is good. It is good. Like,
have the humility to know what you don't know and ask for it.
No, listen, have the humility to understand what they're really listening for.
Yes,
just because they ask you like what school you went to, they're really asking like, is she gonna fuck up my money? Am I gonna see my money?
Is that really what they're asking for every question though?
Basically.
Right. All right, third thing, and then let's let people go.
Third thing, yes, everybody gotta go. The third thing that would make me say no is if I don't have a really good understanding from you of the team that you need.
Team that you need.
Yes.
Not team that you have.
Not the team that you have, but the team that you need. And that you've got the hustle to pull it together. Right? Yeah, I'm sure if we all had, money to poach people from Google and Tesla and Coca-Cola and JP Morgan, we would. But do you have the hustle to get the people you need? And do you know what the right team looks like?
Right.
And part of that may be that you're not in the role that you're in just because you had the great idea, right? Which is what we talked to Sydney about.
Right.
Yeah.
Loved it. What else did you take away from it?
I took away that we are both in North Carolina. And so for those, sorry, rest of the world, but for those of you in North Carolina, Symphonic Capital, Wocstar Capital, Sydney, myself, we are actively investing in North Carolina. So I thought that was really cool. It's just the beginning of us hitting places. Yeah,
it's exciting.
Yeah, we got to get off the coast, right? We got to get to where the entrepreneurs are. And it's in the heartland. It's in the South. It's in the Midwest. Yeah.
Beautiful.
All righty. Good people.
Thanks for hanging with us. This podcast was produced by Wocstar Media in New York City at the Podstream Studios. Be sure to follow VC's Off the Record on Apple and Spotify. We're also on Chiconomy, the State of Women podcast platform. Please consider giving us a good review or share it with someone. Let us know what you want us to talk about on our socials and our YouTube channel. You can find us at wocstar.com for all the information.